In the midst of the NBA playoffs about to start, Adrian Wojnarowski drops a bomb about the USA Olympic team this upcoming summer, and I'm here to break it all down. All that and much more on the Knicks Digest. What's up, guys? It's your boy Dariel from Knicks Digest, and let's get right into today's video. So Adrian Wojnarowski earlier today dropped this tweet: USA Basketball is finalizing its 2024 Paris Olympics roster with Steph Curry, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Jason Tatum, Joel Embiid, Devin Booker, Tyrese Haliburton, Anthony Edwards, Jrue Holiday, Bam Adebayo, and Anthony Davis. Team may initially keep one open spot. So, first and foremost, the thing that really jumped out to me was the fact that Tyrese Haliburton and Jrue Holiday's name were brought up in this tweet. Now, between Tyrese Haliburton and Jrue Holiday is definitely the player that I understand why Jerry Colangelo would want Jrue on the team and on the roster. Jrue Holiday has a very specific skill, which is defense, and he's able to take on the opponent's best offensive player, and Jrue Holiday essentially is able to shut him down. Tyrese Haliburton, on the other hand, now, in that tweet, if we go back to it, the last sentence, team may initially keep one open spot. That is very big because I think that one open spot is for Jalen Brunson and it's his for the taking. And I also think that Brunson maybe actually said no because he wanted to rest, and because of this upcoming playoffs, Jalen Brunson knows that there's going to be a lot on his shoulders. So maybe Jalen Brunson actually got invited and he actually said no, because he wanted to rest and he wanted to enjoy his summer. And depending on how far the Knicks go this playoffs, maybe he wanted to rest to see if they can make a really, really deep run next season in the playoffs, possibly to the NBA championship, or maybe just the Eastern Conference Finals run. But of course, with Tyrese Haliburton and Jrue Holiday being named in Adrian Wojnarowski's tweet, I of course had to go to the numbers. I of course had to go to the stats. So first up, we're going to be looking at Tyrese Haliburton. So for the season, he is averaging 20 points, 3.9, which is 4 rebounds, 10.9, which is 11 assists, converting 47.7 from the field, 36.4 from three-point land, and converting 85.5% from his free throws. So the thing with Tyrese Haliburton is I feel like up until the All-Star break, Tyrese Haliburton was having an amazing breakout season. But what ended up happening was right before the All-Star break, Tyrese Haliburton went down with a really nasty hamstring injury. I believe he pulled it and he was out for several weeks, which actually neglected him from playing in the actual All-Star game. But ever since Tyrese Haliburton has had that hamstring injury, he hasn't really been the same player. And there's been a lot of rumors on the internet and around NBA media, on ESPN with NBA Countdown and everything like that. A lot of people are saying that Tyrese Haliburton, the only reason why he came back was because he wanted to reach that 65 game threshold, where if you don't play 65 games in a season, you are not going to be eligible for your max or super max contract. So a lot of the rumor is that Tyrese Haliburton, he forced his way and he sped up the process in returning to the lineup because he wanted his money. And you're kind of seeing it with his play. Now for the season, Tyrese Haliburton, like I said, is averaging 24 and 11 assists. But if we take a look into his last 25 games, he went from averaging 20 points to 17 points, averaging 9.5 assists, and averaging 4 rebounds. So those numbers have dipped a bit, and it kind of goes to the theory of the whole hamstring injury and him rushing back just to make that 65 game quota. Now, if Tyrese Haliburton never went down with that hamstring injury and he kept playing the way he was playing to start off the season, I mean, the Indiana Pacers were absolutely the talk of the town, making the finals of the in-season tournament where they went up against the Lakers. And the Lakers at the time, they looked super motivated. LeBron James looked like he was in year 5 of the league, just super spry, super energetic. And the Indiana Pacers looked like they were going to be a real threat in the Eastern Conference. And then you have Jalen Brunson, who since January 27th with Julius Randle's dislocating his shoulder, Jalen Brunson had to 100% carry the offensive load in order to get the New York Knicks past the finish line. Now, of course, he's had help from Dante DiVincenzo. He's had help from Josh Hart, Isaiah Hartenstein, the trade with Bogey. Jalen Brunson is the reason why the Knicks ended up as the number 2 seed going into these playoffs. So speaking of Jalen Brunson, So for the season, look at these numbers, man. 28.7 points, 3.6 rebounds, 6.7 assists, converting 47.9, which is 48% from the field, converting 40% from three-point land. Those two numbers, the field goal percent and the three-point field goal percent, 48% and 40%, those are astounding numbers. If you're shooting 40% from three-point land, you are considered a good to great three-point shooter. If you're converting 48%, which is basically 50% of your field goals, you are making half of your field goal attempts in a game, which is insane because the defensive schemes that the teams have been drawing up with Jalen Brunson towards the end of the season, teams know that Jalen Brunson is the one that makes the team run. He's the engine that keeps the team moving forward. So when you have opposing teams drawing up defensive schemes to solely stop Jalen Brunson, but he's still able to convert 40% from three-point land and 50% from the field from regular field goal, that just shows what type of player Jalen Brunson is. But now that we talked about Tyrese Haliburton and we compared his numbers to Jalen Brunson, I wanted to talk about Jrue Holiday. So Jrue Holiday for the season averaging 12.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 4.8 assists, converting 48% from the field goal and 42.9, which is 43% from three-point land, and converting 83.3% from the free throw line. Now Jrue Holiday, like I said in the beginning of this video, is a very interesting pick. Because on one hand, I totally understand Jerry Colangelo wanted someone that is known for his defensive prowess. He wanted someone that he knows is going to be able to go into battle and shut down the opposing player's best offensive player. And 100%, if you go around the league and you ask players who is the most underrated defender in the league, I would probably say 85 to 90% is going to say Jrue Holiday. And that's kind of been his reputation for the last few seasons. So with that reputation, it's only right that if they're looking for players to fulfill a specific role, Jrue Holiday's role is defense. That's pretty much it. It's only defense, and it's to shut down the opposing player's best option. So on one hand, I would understand why Jrue Holiday is chosen to be on this roster. But on the other hand, again, when you compare him to Jalen Brunson, 28.7 points, 3.6 rebounds, 6.7 assists, 47.9, 48% from the field, and 40% from three-point land. You got to take into account Jalen Brunson and the pressure and how all the defense is really honing in on him and how he's still able to get his numbers. Now, going back to the tweet, again, look at the last sentence. Team may initially keep one open spot. That one open spot, Jalen Brunson could 100% be that player that's going to be added to the roster. And like I said in the beginning of the video, maybe Jalen Brunson was actually invited and he turned it down. And there could be a myriad of reasons. Maybe he wanted to rest. Maybe he wanted to see how this upcoming playoffs is going to turn out. We don't exactly know. But I have a really, really strong feeling that Jalen Brunson is going to show up and show out in these playoffs. And Jerry Colangelo is probably going to be calling Jalen Brunson's phone and begging him to join the roster because of a team of LeBron, Steph, KD, Devin Booker, Bam, Jrue Holiday, Tyrese Haliburton, Brunson. Like, the players that I'm naming with the leaders, the three leaders, LeBron, Steph, and KD, with that leadership and the type of knowledge that Jalen Brunson is going to be able to pick just from being around those type of players, KD, Steph, and LeBron, he's going to be able to be around greatness. He's going to be able to see everybody else's work ethic, and he's going to be able to bring that into next season. And with what he has learned, he's going to be able to influence the rest of his teammates, and he's going to be able to tell everybody how KD works, how LeBron works, how Steph works, and it's going to be, and he will lead by example, which will have a trickle-down effect into the rest of his teammates. And before I sign off, I want to keep reiterating why I think Jalen Brunson should have that last roster spot for this upcoming Olympics. So I took a look into Jalen Brunson's last 10 games. The last 10 games of this season, he has averaged 37.8 points, 8.3 assists, and 3.6 rebounds. Now, to be a little bit more specific, in each game, what was his stat line? Okay. So yesterday against the Chicago Bulls, he had 40 points, he had 8 rebounds, and he had 7 assists, converting 14 of his 30 field goal attempts. And from three-point land, he converted 1 of 4. Not great, but we still ended up getting the W. The game before that, he ended up having 30 points with 1 rebound and 11 assists, converting 10 of his 25 field goal attempts and converting 3 of his 7 three-point field goal attempts. The game before that, he had 39 points against the Boston Celtics, which Chris and I, we were not able to do a post-game show But real quick, that game against Boston, that was definitely an important game because we were at least able to show that we're not scared of Boston. Now, people could say that Boston was a little bit lackadaisical. They had nothing to play for anymore, so they ended up getting smacked in the mouth and it didn't really mean anything. I totally hear you guys coming up with that excuse, but the fact is, and the fact still remains, that the Knicks went into Boston Garden or TD Garden or whatever it's called, smacked the Boston Celtics, and we let them know that we're here. So that's one thing. So Jalen Brunson, going back to that game, had 39 points, 2 rebounds, 4 assists, converting 15 of his 23 field goals and 6 of his 11 three-point field goal attempts. The game before that, he had 45 points against the Chicago Bulls. He had 3 rebounds, he had 8 assists, converting 13 of his 24 field goal attempts and 7 of his 12 three-point field goal attempts. Before that, 43 points. Before that, 35 points. Before that, 35 points. But let's take a look into the last 2 games of this 10-game stretch. Then before that, he had 30 points against the Oklahoma City Thunder, where we lost with SGA hitting that game-winning field goal. He had 2 rebounds, 7 assists, converting 11 of his 25 field goal attempts and 4 of his 11 three-point field goal attempts. And then, of course, we have the masterpiece. We have the 61 points against the San Antonio Spurs in San Antonio. Unfortunately, we were not able to get that W. We did catch the L, but Jalen Brunson put on an offensive masterclass. Jalen Brunson, up until right now, has shown you why he is a top 3 point guard in the league, not the Eastern Conference, but in the league, and why he should be in the MVP conversation a little bit more than what I'm hearing. But until next time, guys, I want to say thank you so much for checking out this video. You know the drill, you know the vibes. Taj Gibson for president, even though he's on the Detroit Pistons. Jalen Brunson for all the MVPs. We're getting ready for the playoffs. Let's make an Eastern Conference Finals run. Deuce is loose for co-MVP. And until next time, we out. Peace.